My fiancée slept with 3 men on her Bachelorette trip and blamed alcohol, so I sent her the video she didn't know I had. I'm a 29-year-old guy, and until 2 months ago, I thought I was going to marry the love of my life. Sarah wasn't just my fiancée. She was my best friend, my person. We'd been together for 3 years, met at a mutual friend's wedding, danced all night, and stayed up talking until sunrise. We moved in 6 months later. Everything felt right, effortless. She made me feel seen in a way no one ever had. The kind of love that makes you think you're finally safe. We were supposed to get married this fall. The venue was booked. Invitations were sent. My mom had already picked out her dress. And Sarah? She was glowing, excited about every detail. I even caught her trying on her wedding dress in the mirror when she thought I was asleep. That's how sure I was. That's how much I trusted her. But then came her Bachelorette trip. She told me it was just a girls' weekend. Vegas. Nothing crazy. Just spa time and cocktails. I believed her. I've never been the jealous type. I've always felt like relationships should be built on trust, not surveillance. And besides, she looked me in the eyes before leaving and said, "You're my forever, babe. I'll be counting the minutes until I'm home." So when she stopped responding to my texts that weekend, I didn't panic. Not at first. I told myself, let her have fun. It's her weekend. But deep down, something felt off. A weird kind of stillness. Like when you walk into a room and sense someone was just crying, even if everything looks normal. Then came a message from her best friend. A video, a mistake. She deleted it instantly, but not before I saw it, and that's when everything changed. The morning she left for Vegas, she kissed me on the forehead and said, "Don't miss me too much, okay?" Her suitcase rolled across the floor, leaving this faint echo that stuck in my chest long after the door shut. I remember standing there for a while, staring at that empty doorway, feeling something I couldn't name. Not fear, not doubt, just unease. The first night she sent a quick landed. "Love you." No pictures, no stories, no updates. I told myself she was probably just busy with her friends. But by day 2, the silence started to feel heavy. When I called, she sent it to voicemail. When I texted, "You okay?" she replied hours later with just, "Yeah, all good. Tired." That wasn't like her. Sarah was the type to flood me with photos, brunch selfies, pool snaps, everything. But this time, nothing. The tone was flat, almost guilty. Then came the second red flag. Rachel, one of her bridesmaids, posted a story. A wild Vegas rooftop party, flashing lights, champagne showers, people grinding to music. I almost skipped it, but then I froze. There she was, Sarah, just for a second, laughing, dancing in the corner. And before I could even react, the tag disappeared. Untagged. Gone. I told myself not to overthink it. Maybe she just hated how she looked in that clip. Maybe I was being paranoid. But that night, I opened a blank page on my phone and started writing everything that felt wrong. Every odd text, every weird silence. It was like something deep inside me was trying to warn me, whispering that this wasn't just nerves or jealousy. I didn't know then, I wrote, staring at the blinking cursor. But that weekend would end my relationship, my trust, and my peace. 2 days after Sarah came back from Vegas, things felt weird. She was affectionate, overly so, like she was trying to glue something back together without admitting it was broken. She brought home takeout from my favorite Thai spot, lit candles, even wore the hoodie of mine she always stole. On the outside, everything looked perfect. But inside, I was unsettled. She was dodging eye contact. Touch lingered a little too long, like she was checking if I still believed her version of reality. Then came the message. Kayla, her best friend, the one who planned the Bachelorette trip, accidentally texted me a video. It came through while I was at work, and I almost didn't open it, thinking it was meant for their group chat. But something made me tap it. The video was shaky and dark, clearly filmed at a club. Music thumped, girls screamed with laughter. And there, in the background, was Sarah, arms around a guy in a white shirt. His hands on her waist. Her mouth on his. I sat there blinking. At first I thought maybe I was seeing it wrong. Maybe it was someone who just looked like her. But then she leaned back and laughed, and it was unmistakably her. Seconds later, the message vanished. Deleted for everyone, but I had already screen recorded it. That night, I showed her the video. Sat across from her on the couch and simply said, "Want to tell me what this is?" She blinked, glanced at the phone, then back at me. "That's Oh my God, are you seriously jealous of a hug? She laughed, like I was pathetic for even asking. Gaslight, deny, deflect. Classic. But something snapped in me that night. If she was lying this easily, this confidently, what else was I missing?
Sarah was in the shower when I did it.
I'd never gone through her phone before, not once in 3 years. I always believed that if you needed to snoop, the relationship was already over. But that night, something inside me refused to sit quietly anymore. My hands were shaking as I picked up her phone from the nightstand. Same passcode as always, her birthday. She never changed it. At first, I found nothing, just the usual messages, cleared chats, a few random photos. It almost made me feel guilty, like I'd invaded her privacy for nothing. But then I remembered something, the WhatsApp cloud backup. I opened it, restored an older version, and that's when everything shattered. There they were, messages between her and Kayla, time-stamped from the weekend of the trip. The words blurred in my vision as I read, Kayla. Girl, I can't believe you actually did it. Sarah. I know. 3 guys, Kayla. 3. What the hell is wrong with me? Kayla. Do you think you'll tell him? Sarah, no way. I'll take this to my grave. It was the alcohol. I wasn't myself. My chest went numb. I could barely breathe. My stomach twisted like I'd swallowed glass. The world went silent except for the sound of the shower running, like background noise to my heartbreak. I dropped the phone onto the bed and just sat there, staring at the floor. My ears were ringing. Every image of her, laughing, holding me, planning our wedding, turned into a blur of lies. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a drunken mistake. This was a decision, a series of choices, and the woman I was going to marry made every single one of them. She stepped out of the shower, wrapped in a towel, humming some pop song like nothing had happened. I was sitting on the edge of the bed, her phone in my lap, face pale, hands clenched so tightly my knuckles were white. She noticed instantly. What's wrong? She asked, voice light but cautious. I didn't answer. I just handed her the phone. Read it, I said. You and Kayla. Her smile vanished. She stared at the screen, blinked once, twice, then sat down beside me, towel still clinging to her damp skin. I expected denial, anger, maybe even silence. Instead, she burst into tears. It wasn't me, she sobbed. I mean, yes, it was me, but I wasn't in control. I was so drunk I barely remember anything, Kayla told me after. I didn't even know what I was doing. Her voice cracked, trembling with panic. I messed up. I know I did. But I didn't plan it. It just happened. I sat there, frozen. I wanted to scream, throw something, walk out and never come back. But my heart, the same one she just stomped on, still loved her. That's the sick part. I looked at her crying and still felt this pull, this need to comfort her. I was scared you'd leave me, she whispered. I couldn't lose you. I didn't want to ruin us. I felt like I was drowning in her lies, her tears, her broken promises. Part of me wanted to believe her, to rewrite everything I'd just seen. But the other part, the part that had been dying slowly since she left for that trip, knew better. She grabbed my hand. Please, let's go to therapy. Don't throw us away, and all I could think was, we've already been thrown away. I just didn't know it yet. A year ago for her birthday, I bought Sarah a GoPro. She loved documenting things, beach days, hiking trips, lazy Sundays on the couch. It was our thing. She'd strap it on, film little moments, and later we'd watch them together, laughing at our inside jokes. Before the Vegas trip, she casually said, I'll take the GoPro, might get some cute pool shots with the girls. I didn't think much of it, just tossed it in her bag, reminded her to charge it, and kissed her goodbye. After everything blew up, the texts, the crying, the therapy talk, I tried to distract myself. Couldn't sleep. Couldn't eat, so I opened my laptop, hoping mindless scrolling through old photos would numb the ache. That's when I remembered the shared drive we set up, an auto backup folder from the GoPro. I clicked it. There it was. A row of videos with timestamps. Most were boring. Elevator shots, random poolside giggles, a blurry selfie in a bathroom mirror. Then one file caught my eye. IMG 0439 MP4, dated the night she claimed she blacked out. I hit play, Sarah, laughing on a rooftop bar. A neon-lit drink in hand. Dancing, grinding. Then a guy pulls her close. They kiss. She smiles. No hesitation. No confusion. Cut to another clip. A hotel hallway. Different guy. She's holding his hand, whispering something in his ear. Her voice is clear, sober. Then a third video. Different day. Different man. Same Sarah, same smile. Same lies. I paused it. Suddenly the room felt colder. My body was numb, like my heart had shut the lights off and walked out. This wasn't a one-time drunken mistake. This was a series of choices. Documented in her own footage. She gave me the camera. She filmed her betrayal. And she never even thought I'd look. I thought the worst part was behind me. The texts, the first video, the begging. But I was wrong. The GoPro wasn't just a smoking gun. It was a full-blown documentary of a weekend I was never supposed to see. I watched every clip, one after another. My hands shaking, heart hollowing out with every second. And what I saw wasn't some drunk, helpless girl spiraling. It was my fiancée, laughing, fully aware, dancing, pulling men into elevators like it was some twisted game. She wasn't alone either. Kayla was there in every other video, hyping her up. Yes, Sarah. That one's hot. Go get him. I heard her voice so clearly it felt like she was standing in the room with me. At one point, Kayla literally filmed Sarah sneaking out of a guy's hotel room at sunrise, heels in hand, both of them giggling like teenagers. And there it was, my engagement. My future, reduced to a highlight reel of betrayal. It wasn't a slip-up. It wasn't alcohol. It was an orgy weekend dressed up as a bachelorette. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't punch walls. I just stared at the screen while the person I thought I knew disappeared before my eyes. I watched my future collapse in 1080p. I wrote in my journal that night, frame by frame. After the last video ended, I closed the laptop, stood up, and looked around our apartment. Our framed photos, our wedding vision board, the drawer with the rings. That's when I made the decision. I wasn't going to confront her again. Not yet. I wasn't going to yell or accuse or fall apart. I was going to leave. But not until I made sure the truth left with me. The engagement party was already planned, venue booked, caterer confirmed, family flying in from 3 different states. Thousands of dollars in deposits, dozens of RSVPs. My mother had spent weeks picking out floral centerpieces. Canceling would have raised questions, so I didn't cancel. I showed up, smiled, shook hands. Played the part of the doting fiancé. Sarah, of course, was glowing, floating through the room in a white dress like she was already a bride. She kissed me on the cheek and whispered, "I'm so glad you're giving us another chance." I smiled back. I even hugged her tighter than I needed to. But inside, I was cold, because I wasn't there to celebrate. I was there to observe, to memorize her lies, to burn her performance into my memory so that when it was time, I'd never doubt the decision I was about to make. Everyone kept saying how perfect we looked together. How lucky we were to have found each other. I nodded, I thanked them. Meanwhile, I was thinking about how she'd looked on that GoPro, tangled in someone else's sheets while I was at home drafting my wedding vows. At one point, we took a group photo, Sarah's arm wrapped around mine, both of us smiling for the camera. I remember thinking, this photo will mean something entirely different in a few weeks. She had no idea. No clue I knew. No idea what was coming, and that's what made it satisfying in a way I didn't expect. The silence, the power of knowing. She wanted a show. She wanted fairy lights and slow dances and public displays of forever, so I gave it to her. But I knew something she didn't. This show had an ending she'd never see coming. A week after the engagement party, I was grabbing coffee with Eric, a mutual friend from college who had moved back to town. We were catching up. Nothing serious, just small talk and old stories. I hadn't planned on bringing up Sarah at all, but then, in passing, he said something that froze me mid-sip. So, you and Sarah, huh? Crazy how life works. Never thought she'd settle down after that whole mess with Josh? I blinked. What mess with Josh? He looked at me surprised. Oh, I thought you knew. I mean, back in college, that whole cheating thing, the blackout night excuse. He said it like it was common knowledge. Like I was the only one who hadn't gotten the memo. I played it cool, asked a few more vague questions, laughed it off. Then when I got home, I did what I never thought I'd do. I messaged Josh. It didn't take long for him to respond. And what he sent hit harder than I was ready for. She cheated on me at a frat party, he wrote. Slept with some guy in the bathroom. Next day, she cried. Said she was drunk. That she didn't remember. That it was just once. Swore she wasn't like that. And I believed her. Like an idiot. He ended with, "If I could go back, I wouldn't fall for the tears." I sat there, staring at my screen, blood draining from my face. This wasn't new. This wasn't a one-time spiral. This was a pattern. She always cried, always blamed the alcohol, always wrapped herself in guilt just long enough to avoid accountability. And I realized then, she wasn't broken. She was calculated. Every apology, every tear, rehearsed. And I had almost married the lead actress. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at my desk while Sarah snored peacefully in the other room, and I began building a digital war chest. Not because I wanted to destroy her, but because I refused to let her rewrite the story when this all came crashing down. I backed up everything. Every GoPro file, every WhatsApp screenshot, every DM from Josh. I created 2 encrypted email accounts and sent copies to both. One labeled, "In case she lies." Then I opened a blank document and started writing a letter. Not dramatic, not emotional, just facts, a timeline, a list of what happened with attached evidence. This letter wasn't for her. It was for her family and mine. For anyone who would inevitably ask, "Why did you call off the wedding?" I knew how people could twist things. I've seen it before. The man walks away and suddenly he's the problem. Cold feet, cheating, mental breakdown. I wasn't going to give her that chance. I went through every text I'd saved and added timestamps. Compiled a folder. Labeled everything. I wasn't just breaking an engagement. I was documenting the downfall of a woman everyone thought was perfect. And still, I didn't feel angry. I felt clean-focused. I didn't want pity. I didn't need sympathy. I wasn't out for revenge in the petty sense. I didn't want to humiliate her. I wanted clarity. I wanted to leave knowing that if she tried to twist the truth, I'd have the receipts. If I was going to walk away, I wrote at the top of the letter, I'd walk away with the truth on my side, and I was nearly ready. All that remained was how to end the story. It was a Thursday night. Rain tapped gently on the windows, and the house smelled like the cinnamon candles she always lit when she was anxious. I came out of the bedroom to get some water and found her curled up on the couch, knees to her chest, wrapped in my old college hoodie. She was holding a photo, one from our sophomore year, the 2 of us at a football game, faces painted, smiling like idiots. She didn't hear me at first. She was crying, quiet but deep. The kind that comes from the center of the chest. The kind that makes your throat close up. When she finally looked up and saw me, she didn't speak right away. Just held up the photo and whispered, "We were so happy back then." I stood frozen, torn between the man who loved her and the man who knew better. "I'm sorry," she choked. "I don't even know who that person was in Vegas. You're the only real thing I have." And for a second, I cracked. I felt my chest ache in that familiar way. The way it used to when we fought over stupid things, and I just wanted us to be okay again. I almost sat beside her. Almost held her. Almost told her we'd figure it out, but then I saw the GoPro footage in my mind. Her laughing. Her pulling a stranger into a hotel room. Her moaning in the background while Kayla cheered outside the door. I snapped out of it, and I realized she wasn't mourning me. She was mourning the loss of her mask. The collapse of the perfect story she had crafted so carefully, and I was finally seeing her for who she truly was. I was at my parents' house for dinner when it happened. My mom, beaming, pulled out her phone to show me fabric swatches. "I found this beautiful navy and gold sari," she said.
Do you think it'll match the theme?
Should I book it now before someone else grabs it? And I just froze. The room felt smaller. My skin got hot. I forced a smile, nodded, said something like, "Yeah, it's perfect." But inside, I was unraveling. Everyone still believed in the fairy tale. Everyone was still planning for a wedding I knew was never going to happen. And I was the only one carrying the weight of the truth. I left early, made some excuse about being tired, got into my car, closed the door, and completely broke down. I hadn't cried since my grandfather died. But that night, I sobbed like a child, forehead pressed to the steering wheel, fists clenched, gasping for air like I'd been underwater too long. It wasn't just grief. It was pressure, guilt, rage, not just at her, but at myself. For letting it drag on, for smiling through the party, for letting her cry on the couch and still not ending it. I went home, locked the bedroom door, and opened my laptop. No more limbo. No more waiting. No more pretending. I opened the folder. I read the letter. I watched the footage one last time, not to punish myself, but to remind me why I couldn't let this woman wear white and promise me forever. And then I started planning how it would end, not with a fight. Not with screams. It wouldn't be a breakup. It would be a revelation. I didn't sleep that night. Just sat in front of my laptop, cursor blinking, files open, heart steady for the first time in weeks. There was no rage left in me, just clarity. I compiled the clips. Cut nothing. Blurred no faces. I wasn't out to destroy her reputation, but I wasn't going to protect her lie either. This wasn't about revenge. This was about reflection, forcing her to see the woman behind the mask. I uploaded the footage to an unlisted YouTube link. No tags, no title. Just raw video. It took a few minutes to process. When it was done, I copied the link, opened our last text thread, and typed, "This is who you really are." Then I hit send. Less than 5 minutes later, my phone lit up. Sarah calling. I let it ring. Then again, another call. I turned the phone over on the table. Her first text came in fast. Please pick up. I didn't know you saw that. Then another. It wasn't what it looked like. I was messed up. I was scared. Don't do this, I read them. Every word. But I didn't respond. She kept texting, begging, threatening to come over. Promising she could explain, but there was nothing left to explain. I opened my settings, scrolled to her name and hit block, and just like that, the silence settled. It wasn't the kind of goodbye you scream across a parking lot. It wasn't slamming doors or burned pictures. It was stillness. Cold and final, the loudest goodbye I've ever said. It didn't take long for the ripple to reach shore. 3 days after I sent the video, her mother called me in tears, apologizing, over and over. "We had no idea," she whispered. "I don't know what's wrong with her." Her dad wasn't so gentle. He left a voicemail. Voice shaking with rage. "If I ever see her again, it won't be at a wedding." Within a week, the wedding was officially off. Venue canceled. Florist refunded. My mom cried, not out of shame but relief. She said, "I didn't know what was wrong, but I knew something was eating you alive." Kayla, the cheerleader of the chaos, vanished. Deleted her Instagram, wiped her TikTok. Group chats that once buzzed with dress fittings and seating charts went radio silent. The bridesmaids, once bubbly and oblivious, now avoided eye contact in the grocery store. And Sarah, she went completely silent. Not a call, not a text, not a word, but I started hearing things. Friends said she'd been telling people she had a trauma episode, that she blacked out, that it was never about sex. It was about pain, about coping, about some unnamed wound she didn't know how to deal with. It might have worked, honestly. Before the video, before the laughter, the smirks, the camera angles, the clarity. Now when she cried to mutual friends, all they saw was footage, and the silence she kept afterward. Not remorse, damage control, and that's when I learned something I'll never forget. You can fake words. You can even fake tears, but you can't fake tape. She scripted her story, but I had the director's cut. 2 months later, I finally exhaled. I was sitting in a small cafe in Lisbon, sipping coffee by the window as rain traced lines down the glass. I'd booked a one-way ticket, no plan, no itinerary, just a need to be somewhere that didn't remind me of her voice, her perfume, or our shared routines. Therapy had become my anchor. Once a week, like clockwork, I sat across from a woman who never flinched at my honesty. I told her everything, the video, the lies, the way I still missed the version of Sarah that never existed. Healing didn't come in epiphanies. It came in tiny, quiet steps. In the evenings, I wrote. I started a blog, anonymous at first, just a place to unload what felt too heavy for friends. I titled it The Engagement That Saved Me. I didn't expect anyone to read it. But somehow they did. One day, I got an email from a woman named Lila. She wrote, "Your story helped me leave my fiancé. He cheated, blamed me, and I almost stayed. But reading your words made me feel like I wasn't crazy. Thank you." I stared at that message for a long time, not because I needed validation, but because it reminded me that pain, when shared honestly, becomes something useful, something human. For so long I thought she'd broken me. And maybe she did, in the way lightning breaks a tree. But even broken things can grow again, stronger, wilder. I'm not the same man who bought that ring. I'm not the same man who smiled in engagement photos. She broke me. But I rebuilt myself better than she ever deserved. Some nights, when it's quiet and the world feels far away, I catch myself thinking about her. Not the real her, not the woman from the footage, or the one who cried on the couch like her own victim, but the idea of her. The one I fell in love with. The one I thought I'd build a life with. That version never existed. And it took me a long time to accept that. I almost married a lie. But the truth, which as painful as it was, saved me. There are still traces of her in my life. A playlist I haven't deleted yet. A coffee mug she bought that I haven't thrown out. Little echoes. But they don't hurt anymore. They just remind me how far I've come. I've thought about sending her a message. One last text. Not angry. Not cruel. Just honest. I've written it a dozen times, but never hit send. It would say, "You blamed the alcohol. I blamed myself. But now I blame the choices you made, and I'm free." But I never sent it. I don't need to, because real closure doesn't come from last words or dramatic exits or explosive revenge. It doesn't come from making sure they understand what they did. Closure comes from clarity, from seeing someone fully and walking away anyway. That was the final gift she gave me. Not love. Not partnership, but truth. And I'll carry that with me for the rest of my life, not as a scar, but as proof that I chose myself in the end. And that was the real victory.